course. We had interesting games already yesterday. But today, we have the game that everybody was waiting for. We have FNATIC going up against Dignitas.
It's going to be a good one. The last time these two faced off was, of course, at the MSB, and we saw them go all the way to the last game in both of their series. So today, hopefully, is no different as we have a total of 5 games they can be in. And Dignitas, they're hungry. They are on the life edge here for getting a chance to even go to the Western Clash.
Yeah, Dignitas finds themselves in a very interesting situation here, especially since the beginning of the season. Didn't really go all too well for them.
No.
They struggled very hard, lost 2 of their games right away, and nobody really expected it, considering that they looked as if they could take the championship. They brought FNATIC down to the last game, so that was really close.
Yeah, even Team Liquid, they were 3-0'd, which is crazy to think. A week before that, they were #2 at the mid-season brawl. So Dignitas, a team that was having a rough road at the very beginning, but so far it's been smooth sailing. The last 2 matches have been 3-0s, and they're continuing to make sure to move forward. And today's a big one for them against FNATIC. How will they handle the pressure coming their way? For now, FNATIC is still at the very top, undefeated. 5-0. Later on down the road here, you can see Dignitas is currently sitting at #5, but they are tied in terms of actual score, 3-2 with 3 other members.
Yeah, and the interesting thing when we're looking at the standings is that right now, with the situation that we already talked about a bit earlier, Dignitas is in a spot where they need to win today. They need to win the series against FNATIC. The problem for them is if they lose today, it basically means that if we don't have any major upsets, like for example, Zealots taking down Team Liquid, they won't be going to the Western Clash, since they already lost to Team Liquid and they also lost to Expert. And those are 2 of the teams that are fighting for position in the Western Clash. And the problem for Dignitas is that both of them still face off against each other. The worst case scenario that we actually have for those 2 teams, if they don't lose against Zealots or anyone else that is currently at the bottom of the standing, is that they would be tied with Dignitas. And because they already won the direct match against Dignitas, Dignitas would fall out of the Western Clash. So Dignitas needs a victory against FNATIC today, and that is incredibly important for them here. If they lose today, the chances of them going to the Western Clash are extremely slim. They would have to hope for Zealots to beat, or Team GG to beat Experts or Team Liquid.
Yeah, in small, quick terms here, they are in the driver's seat. They can get themselves a Western Clash if they do well in their next 2 series. If they falter at all, that wheel moves over to different teams, and they'll be sitting on the backside hoping they can even make it, which is pretty crazy to think about. And those matches that would happen seem like impossible matches that losses wouldn't even occur in. So Dignitas needs to deliver today, and I'm excited for the matches. Our first one of the schedule, all the matches coming our way, so let's go ahead and check it out. FNATIC Team Dignitas kicking off your Saturday. Later on, Zealots and Team Liquid, we'll get to see them play as well. And North America will be going at it here. Tempo Storm, Roll20 Esports, Even in Death, and Gale Force Esports. And for North America, Roll20, they earned a victory, or a loss yesterday, as Team Freedom got the victory.
Yeah, that was an insane series.
That was a ridiculous series.
I did not really expect that to happen, and especially on Cursed Hollow. There was so much back and forth between the 2 teams. If you haven't caught the games yesterday between the 2 teams, make sure that you check them out, because they were really incredible. And North America finds themselves basically in the same situation as Europe. The standings are all over the place, and to this point, we don't know who will go to the Western Clash.
What's bonkers to me is that Team Freedom was a bottom 2 team, and they are now in the top of HGC North America. That is absolutely crazy. Well done for them, and congratulations. We'll continue to watch them as they keep moving forward. But back over to Europe, FNATIC and Dignitas facing off today, and it's going to be a great one. Our teams obviously sharing their words on the entire match and what exactly will be happening today.
Team Dignitas are still our biggest rivals in the HGC, but you know, they had some change of shot callers in the team, and they lost against some teams they shouldn't have lost to, so it's really hard to judge where they're really at, even though in scrims they're showing performances that still say that they're top 2 along with us. But still, they don't seem to get the results they want to in the actual tournament, and I think that just tells me that we're gonna win, you know? That we're the stronger team in the tournament right now.
Now that we got that whole experience that we gained from having obviously Mene flexing to all different roles, doing some different things with the shotgun and drafting, we've actually become even stronger, and with Jay back, I think we're gonna be just as comfortable on the HGC stage. The big match this week is definitely FNATIC. we pretty much need to beat them to be able to go to the Western Clash. And as most people know, we've never missed an international event. We've never missed any Blizzard event, actually, for Heroes of the Storm. So we're really, really going to focus hard. And I think we definitely can win, but it's not going to be easy.
Bakery and the rest of Dignitas looking for a victory today. They think they can win, but do you think they can pull it off against FNATIC?
It's not going to be easy. It's actually going to be really difficult for them. So far, when we look at the online record that FNATIC has against Dignitas, they always won in HGC. It was always a close game. It went down to the 5th map, but they were always able to pull it off. So in the first part of the first phase and in the second part of the first phase, FNATIC both times won with a 3-2. So that doesn't really bode all too well for Dignitas for today. But as we said before, they have to win. Their direct competition is in an absolute stellar position. If Dignitas loses this today, their chances of going to the Western Clash are basically, they would have to hope for an absolute miracle.
And most could say that FNATIC has made it already here to the Western Clash. Maybe they'll play a little bit more relaxed today. Maybe it's something that they won't pull off completely. But the thing is, FNATIC is hungry. They want to go to Blizzard. They want to go to BlizzCon here. They want to do well at the Western Clash as well. They're not looking to take it easy on Dignitas in any way, shape, or form. So it's not like it'll be an easy victory today. It's not going to be something that Dignitas can just walk in here and see a slacking FNATIC. So I'm actually very excited for the match that will be occurring. Let's check out the battleground for game number 1. It'll be Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yeah, Tomb of the Spider Queen is going to be our first map here, so we're going to see what the two teams can pull off here. And you already talked a little bit about how FNATIC is not going to slack today. And that's incredibly important because FNATIC is already thinking about BlizzCon. For them, it's not only about going to the Western Clash. They know they're going already, but they are still accumulating points and also a good map score for the end of Phase 2 when it's all about BlizzCon. They've been talking about this since the first playdate. So right now, they're really in a spot when they are saying we need to take Dignitas down to have smooth sailing in the second part of Phase 2. And for Dignitas, as we said, this means everything right now. This would actually be the first event in, I actually think, ever that Dignitas does not attend an offline event in
a European
Europe.
event.
That would be insane.
That would be absolutely ridiculous. Let's go ahead and get it started here. The biggest match of the weekend, FNATIC and Dignitas. Starting it off here as we go in the Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yeah, so let's see what the teams are going to draft here, because this is definitely going to be a really interesting one. The opening match in the best of 5 dictates oftentimes the pace the entire series is going to go here. And FNATIC and Dignitas have shown very specific styles. Dignitas in particular has just used Stitches over and over again in all of their drafts to an extent that all of Europe jumped on the Stitches train and was trying to utilize him here as well. FNATIC has played Stitches on the map too, but it's definitely one of the heroes that we have to watch out for in this draft in particular. Now, the team start off a little bit more traditional. Dignitas, first of all, banning out Genji, who's of course one of our most mobile heroes. He has an incredible participation ratio in the league. And FNATIC is actually targeting something that we have seen more so against other teams. They are going for a ban on Oriel, saying, hey, we want to make sure that you do not have any option to really play with Oriel as this double support staple. FNATIC, on the other hand, opening with something that I didn't really expect. Tracer and Tassadar right off the bat on the first and second rotation. That is crazy. That's usually something that we see way later in the draft.
Yeah, that is definitely a statement here from FNATIC. Also, with the ban on Ariel, it does make a little more sense here. With Ariel brings in that Aegis and stops a Pulse Bomb, Tracer kind of becomes a little bit weaker overall if he's not landing those Pulse Bombs.
Yeah.
So a solid ban here, taking away the double support strength that is available. Also, that combination of Ariel and Uther, and also allows him to run this Tracer Tassadar. So FNATIC really bring in a little bit more aggression.
Yeah, and Uberak and Uther now for Dignitas. So FNATIC obviously has an idea or has a plan going into this. The ban on the first spot signifies that already, and then going into a Tassadar Tracer immediately shows it as well. But Dignitas has a fantastic draft so far. They have with Greymane fantastic wave clear that they can use, and Uberak and Uther are the two heroes that have the highest participation ratio in HGC Europe. Uther is currently at 100%, and Uberak is, I think, at 98 or 99%. Also, Dignitas has currently with Uther, I think 8 wins and 2 losses. So they're incredibly successful with the hero. Bakery is fantastic on him. And this is, for Dignitas, an amazing start into the draft. But they still have to be worried about FNATIC, who are obviously showing something completely different from what we've seen in the last few weeks.
You look at this and you think, okay, Dignitas has everything that we are used to in the meta. We've been playing around the similar meta in the last few weeks, and this is something that if you get these first 3 heroes, you're looking pretty darn strong, especially with Dig's statistics in terms of winning. But FNATIC has been a team that has been willing and showing in the last couple weeks different type of strategies that require massive aggression and execution, and they pull it off every single time. So FNATIC gonna have something up their sleeves here. Excited to see how it will pan off for them as they'll ban out Gul'dan, keeping that away from their opponents. Again, with it being 2-mode Spider Queen, that wave clear coming in, being very effective for fighting. Also, a little bit harder for Tracer to be aggressive with a Horrify coming your way. Lunara will be the ban out here for Dignitas, and they're just looking to keep away that battery. Tacit RB in here is really good with both Tracer and, of course, the Lunara, so keeping them out. And we'll see what the other healer will be for FNATIC.
Yeah, the interesting part here is with the ban on Lunara, I really like it because I think what FNATIC is currently doing, or let's say what Dignitas is currently a little bit afraid of, is that FNATIC is going to use Tracer in a very similar way to what oftentimes Illidan does. So just simply trying to disrupt the entire setup of the opponent and give Lunara the space and the freedom that she needs to jump in and dish out the damage. So it's a really smart move of Dignitas to take her away. And also with Gul'dan, we're seeing FNATIC just targeting wave clear. It's one of the weaknesses that you oftentimes have with Tracer. Tacita compensates for that to a certain extent. But FNATIC now even going into Falstad, I really like what we're seeing from FNATIC now because it's so different from what we have seen throughout, I would say, the last 6 to 8 weeks, even including the mid-season brawl, where there has been a very distinct meta, especially on the first few picks, and teams just branching out on the last 2 picks for each side. But FNATIC is throwing all that out of the window and just saying, guys, we figured it out. This is what we're going for.
It's so different, but it's so FNATIC.
Yeah.
It just seems to make sense here. If this was any other team, we'd be like, hey, what are you doing right now? But FNATIC coming in here, #1 in HGC Europe, and willing to change things up. It's one of the things that they did at the midseason brawl so well. I remember the statement they mentioned was, hey, we want to come in and change the way that people play Heroes of the Storm. And they're doing it here against Dignitas. Probably the biggest matchup of the entire season here for the next couple of weeks. Now, looking over at Dignitas, they're going to want to keep making sure they have lockdown and, of course, get in the fights they would like. Here, they move into Arthas, which will allow them to do so. And interesting, we are getting Medivh.
Yeah, and Medivh is always such a game changer, especially against the Tracer. You've been talking earlier about how Oriel can work really well against Tracer and a Pulse Bomb. Medivh is in the same spot. He can really mitigate a lot of the damage that Tracer can push out there with the ult. So I'm really looking forward to how Dignitas is going to play this. As much as I love what FNATIC is doing here, that they're shaking things up, that they are believing in their strength and something they're very comfortable with, I also think that Dignitas has a very good response to it. We have a lot of lockdown on their side, there's a lot of stun, and Nubarak can use his cocoon, Uther could against Tracer, go into the Divine Storm on top of it. So there's a lot of tools that they currently have to work against FNATIC's draft.
Well, now we're looking for Engage for FNATIC. What kind of tank are we going to be grabbing? Diablo? Typical choice that we can see in the past, but the problem is Dignitas has Uther and a Nubarak. Nubarak pretty good at handling Diablo when he comes in, can use the Impale when he shadow charges in, and also Uther, of course, with level 7 can heal it out. Now, ETC is a pickup for Breeze.
Yeah, it's a pickup for Breeze, and Breeze was talking to me recently and saying that, especially on Tomb, he feels very confident in his ability to use the hero here, and that's what we are currently seeing. We have seen him actually already playing ETC once on the map. And he did absolutely fantastic. He opened up so many plays for his team. It was really a pleasure to see how he isolated targets. And normally when you look at ETC, it's not really that tank anymore, that frontliner that you expect to be played, especially solo. So that's just another sign of how confident they are with this. And this is going to be a great first game in a series that is so important, especially, of course, for Dignitas.
Well, if we think about it a little bit here, with Tracer zipping around being annoying to the opposing team, that does create a few opportunities for ETC to move in for those power slides and those knockbacks. Of course, if Tracer oversteps, ETC can move in for a flank, and when someone goes to engage on that Tracer, you bring out the power slide or, of course, knock them away. So it can work out here. But again, this is a draft that we typically do not see on this battleground. I have no idea it's going to pan out, because you look over at Dignitas, they've got wave clear, they got engage, they have damage mitigation, they have Uther. kind of scary.
Dignitas has a lot of great tools, and I think this is once again a situation where we have to look at Tracer.
Yeah.
This is really Shrimpy just saying, boys, I got this. Because he's definitely going to be the one on Tracer, and if you look at the draft they have, this is one of those drafts where you have to really... Tracer has a high skill cap hero. If you really want to completely unlock their full potential, you need to know exactly what you're doing, you have to have every single timing down cold, and you need to know where the line is. How far, how deep can you go to get a kill, to push the damage in? And Shrimpy knows that. So they're banking their hopes on Shrimpy now, saying he knows exactly what to do, and even against opponents that have so many disables, so many stuns, so many tools to deal with Tracer, he's going to be the one to say, hey, I can work around this, and his team is going to enable him as much as they can. ETC can peel for him. We have the double support that's going to try and keep him alive. But as we said before, Dignitas has also a very strong draft, so this comes down to the individual skill once again. And FNATIC has just been looking fantastic over the last few weeks. Their coordination was always so on point. Dignitas has to really show today that they are still the team that can take FNATIC down here, because if they don't, then they are most likely not going to the Western Clash.
Well, it's going to come down to the early game here. How does Dignitas handle the turn-ins? Of course, setting up for all the fights, and of course, getting those web weavers going. Let's go ahead and get this started here for game number 1. 2-minute Spider Queen, Dignitas, and FNATIC facing up.
Game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, we have FNATIC going up against Dignitas with Smexy on Rega. We are seeing Breeze currently playing ETC once again up on the cow, and Quatnix on the bird playing Falset in this game. FNATIC also with Shrimpy on Tracer, which is definitely going to be the most significant hero here. And Wubio, of course, with Tazza going to try and keep him alive throughout the entire game.
On the right side, in the red, looking for a victory here. Western Clash looming over their heads. Bakery playing Uther, Mene on Medivh, JPL on a Nubrax, Snitch playing Greymane, and Zelia on Arthas.
Now, as we are heading into the series, I just want to remind everyone once again that currently FNATIC is already qualified for the Western Clash, and we have 4 teams. Dignitas, Team Expert, Team Liquid, and Trick Esport still in a position tied in wins and losses where they can, all 4 of them, qualify for the Western Clash. And Dignitas is in a very uncomfortable position because they already lost their match to Team Liquid and they lost their match to Team Expert. And what we're looking for when teams are tied at the end of the part here in the phase is what was the direct result? Who won the direct comparison between the 2 teams? So Dignitas cannot lose against FNATIC and all of a sudden end up being on the same score as Team Liquid or Expert, or they would be pushed out of the Western Clash. So a victory for them here is absolutely essential. If they lose against FNATIC, they have to hope for Team Zealots to beat Team Liquid, or at least for the good guys to beat Team Expert. And those are very slim hopes. So Dignitas, they need to make sure that this series really counts for them.
A very stressful situation for them. One that they shouldn't panic about, especially if you're a fan for Dignitas. Dignitas has always been great at having their backs against the wall. They deliver every single time. So this is a scenario that, oddly enough, they should revel in. They should be happy to be in.
I'm not quite sure if they're going to be happy about it, but it's definitely a situation that they can handle. Let's put it like this. We have also, when we are looking at the talents, a few adjustments, and we're going to talk about them in a second. First of all, I want to mention that we have, especially with the situation here now, not really a dedicated solo laner for FNATIC. They're all over the place with this draft right now. They have high mobility on Tracer. They're sending her down to the bot lane. They're reacting to what Dignitas does as well, who of course use Medivh to be as mobile as they can with the portals. So it's a really cool opening into the game already as is.
But the Psi Infusion here will allow FNATIC to keep rotating around to get those dropped in. He already has 100 and what? No, almost 200 stacks here. So we'll be keeping up there. Now Falstad taking some damage here as Quacknix will be engaged upon.
But what he said right now, that's one of the important parts. It's one of the changes that they made. The Psi Infusion over the Templar as well. So already adapting a little bit, trying to make sure that they're going to get a damage increase and that they're going to get more wave clear. Just overall, it's an amazing AoE spell if you go for Psi Infusion. And when we talk about adjustments, we also have to talk about Falstad. Going again into the Season Marksman. We have seen lately a lot of Falstad players going into the Gathering Storm instead and trying to get a bit more burst damage for their combo, especially when they're trying to combo it off some lockdown that they have. But in this game, with all... Nice attempt by JPL here. In this game, with all the mobility that you have to roam between 2 lanes and get more stacks, they are going for the Season Marksman here again, especially since they have two great melee targets up at the front with Uther even a third that they can attack to make sure that they get additional damage in.
Yeah, with that giant killer that comes on at 13, those two tanks being able to be taken out. Now Tassadar takes damage here, and JPL and Bakery will coordinate a gank here and get a kill on Tassadar. Wubby falling right away here as Dignitas will get first blood in this game.
Yeah, so Dignitas is currently in a situation where they have a slight lead through the kill. Nothing really too crazy, but they have a bit of map control, which just allowed them to turn in their own gems. And that's super important for them here. We also are seeing FNATIC fighting for exactly this. And this is also where they have with Tassadar a great tool for vision. Mena on the Medivh, on the other hand, provides the same thing to Dignitas. And just seeing him on the Medivh, by the way, highlights again what Bakery was talking about and was what Mena himself has said in the last few weeks. They might not always run with a double support, but they really expand on Mena's hero pool now. This is one of the key things when you're looking at a player like Mena. He plays from any competitive player that we have in the scene, by far the most games of Heroes of the Storm. He has an insane amount of heroes that he plays when he plays in Hero League, when he plays in Ranked, but in competitive, they only utilized a very small part of this. Only had him on a couple of key heroes that he played for the team, and now they're trying to expand this. They had him on Brightwing, they had him on Oriel, we are seeing him now on Medivh, so Dignitas is really trying to utilize him as a weapon to make themselves even more flexible.
Well, for now, the weapons are working out as they're engaging on Schwimpy. Schwimpy will be able to back up as Blue Web Weavers will be coming in from FNATIC. And what you're talking about is a great point here for Dignitas. With Mane playing Medivh, that takes one hero away from Snitch that he has to work on. Snitch plays so many different heroes, so being able to fluctuate between team members is a great strength, and it grows your team as an entire roster. So far, Dignitas is using that. We saw the Brightwing yesterday. Today, we get the Medivh. Now, FNATIC doing pretty well right now with this tournament. Nice half of a lead on their opponents, grabbing turrets, pushing in the middle lane. Breeze leading the charge here too. They actually break down, what, 4 turrets there? 5 turrets looks like, then almost a 6th.
Yeah, they're doing fantastic right now. They're in a position where they not only take turrets, they're starting to pressure forts. They have taken a level lead at this point as is. This is a great spot for them to be in. A lot of value out of the first turn in here on Tomb of the Spider Queen on our first map, and that is definitely going to pressure Dignitas even more. Who, by the way, made even more adjustments, especially on the side of Arthas, going after the Frost Presence straight into 2 of the Deathcore talents. Deathlord taken for the cooldown reduction and the range increase, and then also the Immortal Coil. So going away from the Icebound Fortitude, which has been the talent on 7 on the European server.
Well, looking at the team that FNATIC has, they have a lot of range here that's going to be trying to harass him. So having that heal available at level 7 is great, but you also get your own harassment. ETC, for the most part, probably isn't going to be diving in as much. You're not going to need that Icebound Fortitude as much, and you're probably not going to be dealing with Tracer damage. So here, you get a little bit more harassed, you get a little more heal, and get a little bit more tanky. I like the adjustment from Zelia on that Arthas.
Yeah, we have now level 10 on the other hand. That's a big problem for Dignitas now, since FNATIC is going to aim for that second turn in, and if they hit the level 10 faster, there's an incredibly high chance they're going to make this work. Breeze also will be such a problem, since with his Mosh Pit, he can really threaten Dignitas. There's a lot of interrupts, of course, on the side of Dignitas, but just the threat of it hitting alone will force some of these heroes to keep their stuns back.
And it forces them not to ever group up, too, as well. And if they don't group up, that allows Tracer to get on top of Tigers, or get on top of members and try to focus them down and get on targets and really do their best here to bring them down. So watch for Tracer to constantly be in harassment range of anyone they can get onto, even the Arthas, the Uther in particular, and try to harass him. Wubby will always be by Schwimpy, though, to make sure to bring out those shields and keep him up in lifestealing. From here, it's about pushing your opponent back and making sure they're not going for a turn-in. In fact, FNATIC would like to get their own second turn-in.
Yeah, and they will be easily able to accomplish this, since Dignitas cannot afford to be caught by an opponent that has the level 10 talent. It's the cardinal rule in Heroes of the Storm. If you don't have your heroics, you move back and you wait until you're fighting on even talents. That's the most important part. So we have a few of our audience here already predicting that FNATIC is going down today. So far, they haven't really struggled yet in Phase 2, but maybe Dignitas is the team to make it happen. At this point, though, FNATIC definitely has the lead, and now another opportunity to set themselves apart even further thanks to the second turn-in they just achieved.
Not a bad prediction. FNATIC has been on point with execution and their mid-game. They have been dominant and destructive, but Dignitas has been one of these teams that can just hang in no matter what and find a way to get a victory in the late game if they're not even able to do their combinations they've been wanting to pull off for the last couple weeks. So Dignitas, can definitely upset them. Just a matter of pushing everything to the limit. And FNATIC is actually doing that right now. Top 4 has been taken out, middle 4 very low, about to be killed as well. So they open up this battleground, which makes Tracer more effective.
Yeah, so they have at this point now taken every single fort on the map. Now FNATIC has one problem, or could have a problem. If they lose a team fight, if they get a bit too overconfident and start losing heroes, Dignitas could with a turn and push in structures as well and close this gap in experience really quickly. That's one of the big problems that you sometimes have in such a situation. So FNATIC cannot afford to get complacent. If they at some point just say, boys, we have a 1.5 level lead, easy game, they go into a weird fight that they can't win, maybe in a choke point, maybe Dignitas is able to force an engage on them and get an early snipe. If FNATIC loses 2-3 heroes, Dignitas turns in, starts to take down towers and forts, they will close this gap in experience really quickly. So FNATIC is far ahead right now, even though they didn't kill a single hero yet, but they need to be very careful of how they approach this.
Wimpy has to be careful now as Bakery finds him on the side with the stun. He will get out. The turn-in occurring for Dignitas, and FNATIC will attempt to stop it. Main goals here, stop the turn-in, but also get a kill with someone that has a massive amount of gems here. Set Dignitas back so they don't have multiple turn-ins available. Right now, they're holding on to 76 gems, 42 in particular on Snitch, which makes it a little bit harder for Greymane to move in for those engagements, to force those fights, because he wants to play on the reserve side.
Yeah, there's nothing worse when you play a melee assassin and you hold a massive amount of gems and you know you should be the one who really engages and trades off. But you also know if you fall and the fight is lost, all of a sudden the gems are lost and it just starts to snowball against you. And it's just that domino effect. So they can't afford that to happen. FNATIC gets another turn in right now. They don't have the gem amount yet to get another Webweaver wave, but they are freely turning the gems they hold in since they just grabbed level 13 and set themselves apart by another talent, so Dignitas has to wait a bit longer until they're able to close that gap.
Dig is searching though. They've been looking for a fight. They want to force something here. Even with FNATIC having a level 13 talent advantage, they know that getting a kill can allow for the composition to be more effective. If they kill one member on FNATIC, suddenly Arthas and a Nubrak, that combo that can lock down targets, becomes stronger in 5v4s. And of course, you can keep that Greymane alive to allow for him to turn in. They just can't seem to find the opportunity. Quacknix right there was playing very safe and held on to the last second before he barrel rolled away.
Dignitas is playing this still quite safe though, and with the Leyline Seal and the Cocoon, they can definitely start forcing fights here at some point. So this is going to be one of those situations again where Dignitas plays it a bit risky because they hold the gems back for so long, but they wait for the perfect opportunity. And if they use it properly, they can get the kill. But unfortunately for them, the Cocoon duration was long enough for FNATIC to move in and defend Tracer.
Mighty Gust was used though, which does make it a little bit easier to use Leyline Seal. Maybe move in for a Howling Blast. We'll see if Dignitas will get 13 and try to force something to occur. However, Leyline Seal being available on the field is kind of hard to pull off against Rhaegar, who's going to be sitting in the back line playing very Malfurion-esque. Tassadar in the back too. Tracer with the ability to zip around, and of course Falstad with a barrel roll. We're going to have to really need to see Mane be on point with the engagement and get something on that back line.
Yeah, right now with the level 13 talent that Dignitas just got, they have at least a chance now to fight on even talents, and this is the important part. They hold 102 gems. We're not just on Gale Force esports levels yet. They need to double that for that to happen, but they have a very impressive amount of gems to turn in. That could be a snowball if they start to get that momentum and turn in after turn in, which makes it difficult and dangerous for FNATIC. But if they lose these gems, then it would basically be lights out immediately. So this works both sides. And Zelia not getting blown up. The Divine Shield comes out already. Medivh going with a Leyline Seal here, but not able to get a kill. And Dignitas moves back once again, utilizing the portal.
Oh, that was looking great there until we saw Arthas get low on health and Divine Shield had to be used. Cocoon is up and available, as well as a Cursed Bullet for Dignitas if they want to move for a fight. But FNATIC wants to take the opportunity to go for a turn-in here. Dignitas goes ahead and taps, runs in. Dimensional Shift being used by Wubby as he gets away.
One of the big problems for Dignitas is with... the Mosh Pit comes in and it's a triple. They have no interrupt. They have nothing. That's a lot of free damage pressured out. Nobody falling, but everyone is already starting to be extremely low. And Zelia might fall here. Using the army, gets protected by Medivh. Portal is set up, but it's outside of his reach. He's trying to get away, but Breeze comes in once more, divides him from the portal, isolates him, and they take him down. No gems lost on Zelia. But a big problem is that FNATIC is about to hit level 16.
Yeah, they're about to hit 16, and they're about to get a turn, and can move in for keeps. Now, that Mosh, while brilliant, there wasn't much damage there that could actually follow up. A Pulse Bomb wasn't available. FNATIC was in the bottom lane clearing. That's why we didn't see any kills happen. But with the fly-in, we were able to have a few members get cleaned up.
Also, a big problem that Dignitas had, it was very transparent as they're fighting for their turn-in, is with all the ports eliminated and FNATIC holding on to theirs, FNATIC has a fountain on every single lane.
Sustain.
So they can, yes, exactly, they have the sustain. They can move back, tap the fountain, and engage back into the battle. But Dignitas just doesn't have that opportunity. So this is a massive, massive problem for Dignitas in these situations. And now we have FNATIC with Web Weavers and the level 16 advantage looking for the first keep in the game.
And Quacknix brilliantly did push in that bottom lane to get his Web Weaver on top of the keep, which allows for FNATIC to push in here in the middle. Schwimpy is being bold and brave, pushing on the side here with Tassadar shields, trying to harass their opponent. Snitch will get the Pulse Bomb. Luckily, Force of Will come out as Mane did have it available, but the keep might not be as lucky. Already down to half health, and it looks like FNATIC wants it.
Yeah, FNATIC definitely wants to keep, and they're going to get it. They look strong here. And this has been a very tactical game. We didn't see a lot of kills. It's only 2 kills in total. But FNATIC just moves in, gets the first keep, tries to move in for the second here in the middle. And they have a 3-level lead over Dignitas just by playing the map. They only played the map so far. They never really forced big team fights. And they just do this in FNATIC fashion, controlling every single angle and playing very disciplined and smart. But Dignitas still holds 128 gems. This game isn't over yet.
Quacknix drops a Mighty Gust as JPL goes for an engage. Dignitas realizing they have to fight at some point, even if they are at talent disadvantage, but yet don't get the pick off. With the Mighty Gust being used, though, they may have a chance at 16 to move in for a fight, but they are still a full level away. And just to go back to your point about how the map has been played, there has only been 2 kills in this game so far, 1 for each team. That's how low the kill count currently is, but how dominant FNATIC is being when it comes to turn-ins.
Yeah, and also one of the things that we have to realize with this is still that FNATIC had to take a keep. They had to. If you have an opponent that has 135 gems and 44 already turned in, if you don't get value out of your turn-ins, you will end up losing the game in the late game once that your opponent starts to get their turn-ins and gets value. So this is the one thing that FNATIC has to be concerned of. They do fantastic on the map, and they took the second keep, they do everything right, but still Dignitas holds on to these gems, and that can be a threat in the long run. But the more keeps FNATIC takes, the better positioned they are, even if Dignitas gets an opportunity to turn in their gems and start with one Web Weaver wave after another.
FNATIC continues to control the fight. We saw the Mighty Gust from Quacknix. They were hoping to get a kill on a member on the top left, so they took away the Uther away from it to hope they could burst him down. Sadly, they were not able to do so, and Manny was able to break up a portal just to prevent that entire fight from occurring. And FNATIC tried to force it before 16 hit for Dignitas. With 16 about to hit, they pull away, they grab control of the battleground, drop off a few gems as well. And they have about 40 available, but they still have to dance around to make sure Dignitas doesn't turn in, because Dig is hungry. They are ready to start this comeback, and now is the time to do so.
Exactly. This is the make or break moment. But look at the bot lane. Already catapults pushing in, FNATIC interrupting. They have the range also on the level 7 for Tassadar to make sure that he has an easier time getting those interrupts. Breeze is being engaged upon. Dignitas, they are running out of time. At some point, they have to bite the bullet and simply force the battle. There's no other option for them.
This might be it. Wimpy keeps harassing on the right side. Mane with the portals as well. Bakery stepping forward. JPL is willing to engage if someone oversteps.
Already the catapults are in there, trying to isolate Zelia again. Breeze, does he have the slide? Divine Shield comes out. Dignitas protecting him. Protecting Arthurs with JPL dropping another Impale, but the shield has already been broken on the core. The first damage to Dignitas core. Nothing crazy, we're talking about a % here, but it just shows that Dignitas, with every fight they're trying to take over the turning points, is on a clock.
They're on a clock and it's currently ticking. Now, if there's any team that you don't doubt in this scenario, it's Dignitas. Remember, the mid-season brawl, they were in a very similar situation on Battlefield of Eternity, down keeps, but they had a gray main and they had team members and they kept fighting, and they will never step out until the game is officially over. But FNATIC right now is applying pressure. Middle lane, bottom lane, constantly with those catapults. The top Web Weaver turn-in is the main point for Dignitas. It is being controlled by FNATIC. They are not giving them a chance.
Dignitas' window is closing fast. Yes, they hold 160 gems, but FNATIC is starting to work towards level 20. Dignitas has to force a fight before that happens.
Do it now.
They cannot afford to fight against level 20 talents with 2 keeps already down. There's just no way. It's one of those do or die moments. Either you force the fight or you will lose in the long run. FNATIC is just winning a battle of nutrition here. So they can just move in and take them down. And Medivh is attempting to sneak a turn in. The problem is Tracer is already on him and disrupts him right away. Mene moves back and catapults are once again wailing away at the core. FNATIC needs only half a level and they have 20. Dignitas needs to do something. They're dying a slow death here.
Not even 20 is scary as well. Look at that, and 12 more gems being available, being picked up here from FNATIC. They can drop off and have 3 web weavers pushing while they hit level 20, and even the threat of a boss if they wanted to move into that area. Maybe a bit too aggressive. You don't want to give Dignitas a chance to move in and stop that boss from being grabbed, but still, FNATIC has everything set up for them, and JPL knows it. He moves in. Bakery's going for the turn in. Can Bakery get it? Bakery gets the turn in.
Bakery gets the turn in, so that is at least something for Dignitas. It's going to de-push the mid and the bot lane, but the web weavers are going to be falling to the catapults. So now is a moment when Dignitas needs to try and close, maybe on the top lane, the gap in experience. They need to force a fight, and FNATIC is not willing to give it to them. They know that in just a few, maybe 2-3 waves, they have level 20. They're saying, yeah, push in with your web weavers, we dare you, because once you are starting to push in the fort, we get these waves for free. And then we have level 20, and then we're going to fight. But now Dignitas is trying to get the battle before that happens, and they engage upon a Quadnix who immediately uses the Mighty Gust for disengage.
Cleanse was used, though. There's still an Ancestor Healing available for him if need be, but the web weaver in the middle easily cleaned up. The one in the bottom already cleaned up by the catapults that you mentioned earlier, and the top lane is the only main point that Dignitas can maybe threaten any pressure for, but with 20 looming, a few more levels of experience, there it is, 20 hits, and FNATIC has finally set the spot here to where they have 20, and they have a turn-in available if they would like to force a web weaver.
That's why I said earlier that Dignitas needs to force a fight. Getting the turn-in is not enough. You are not in a position where the turn-in really does anything significant for you. What you needed was a fight and kills, and they didn't get them. Once you get the kills, then the web weaver, you have the potential to push through structures, close a gap in experience to an extent, and also gain some momentum. That hasn't happened for Dignitas. They got a turn-in that basically only de-pushed the lanes to a not even a, it wasn't even a big margin or anything. It was a very, very small de-push on the lanes. Though. So they can't fight here.
They do, however, get into a spot where they force another turn-in. They're just dropping off gems. This is delay tactics here from Dignitas. But FNATIC could engage. Mighty Gust being available. We could have Quacknix flying at any moment. Mene in a spot here where we could drop down portals to make sure that doesn't happen.
The problem is that they are really just simply
delaying the inevitable?
I don't want to say they're wasting their gems. They're still turning them in and they get some relief on the lane and it helps them to get to level 20 themselves. But basically all these gems they turn in right now don't do anything else for them but stalling it out. So Dignitas seems to be really focused on the idea of hitting level 20 at some point and then forcing FNATIC into fights on an even level. And I'm not sure if FNATIC is really willing to give those to them. So FNATIC, if they play it smart, should have a really good chance here to take this game just by delaying and letting the lanes push. Keep in mind, the lanes that are pushing are the bot and the mid lane, which means that FNATIC can, for example, posture around the boss at the top, and eventually someone of Dignitas has to move to the bot lane and deep push it, and then FNATIC can make a boss play. They have to be careful with Medivh, of course, but you can play around the Leyline Seal.
Well, the Leyline Seal being available here for one more level until 20 hits and Medivh Shakes will come online. Can Dignitas get another level before they are killed on their core? It's not looking like it.
They just got the turn.
The turn-in's coming in. They have to force it. JPL knows it. He moves in, drops the impale, but Wubby bringing out the dimensional shift.
Yeah, here comes at least the mosh pit. They're trying to go for Zelia in the back. Breeze only stalling them out for a moment. The web weavers are coming down now though, and we have Shrimpy already pressuring Snitch here, dropping him to half HP. FNATIC still holds the Storm Talents. They have their 20. They're starting to move in. Will be already knocking for him as they are going for it. And the web weavers will push for the core, and the bot lane and the mid lane top is going to lose the keep eventually. But right now the question is, can Dignitas defend their core?
They have to try here. Bakery is taking harassment aside. JPL moves in. Divine Shield is available. Snitch moves forward for Breeze. He's low on health, but he gets out there. The Mighty Gust being used.
Cocoon is broken immediately by Tracer. She's such a great tool to break the Cocoon down. That's something that Dignitas struggle with, and Dignitas is losing their core rapidly. This is game as Dignitas loses the first map on Tomb of the Spider Queen against FNATIC, taking the lead in this best of 5.
FNATIC getting the victory, and there was only 2 kills through that entire match. 1-1 for both of our teams, but FNATIC came out with a plan. Control the battleground, keep up with the macro and don't give Dignitas any chances. And at the end, it was enough.
Yeah, they played a really nice game here. They played very strategic. It was a very strategic game. They never forced fights they didn't have to. And they knew that with the early advantage they got thanks to their turn-ins, they never let it go. They always fought the battles they had to. They interrupted Dignitas over and over again when Dignitas was attempting to get these turn-ins. And for FNATIC, that was absolutely fantastic. They're looking now at a lead in the series. And for Dignitas, it was a bit of a frustrating loss because you want to fight, you want to do something, but they're always stuck in this position that they can never break out of. So great play from FNATIC, Dignitas playing also a disciplined game, but then in the end losing in map number 1.
It's impressive how much better teams are getting at controlling that web that comes out from a noob rack. Multiple times we saw the web used on Tracer, because Tracer is the best DPS that FNATIC had to clear out a web if it did go on, say, the Rhaegar or such. But they realized, okay, we kept putting on Tracer, but the opposing team, Tassadar and Rhaegar, were always in spots where they could help out. If they had to, they could drop a cleanse immediately. And we had Falstad with the Mighty Gus. If ever an engage was coming out to lock down that Tracer, it was never given an opportunity to Dignitas, and FNATIC controlled it so well that going into game number 2, you got to think about those options being available for FNATIC, because they are well prepared.
They played extremely well around the Nubarak. It was such a big threat, and still is, in any composition, and especially with Dignitas. They're a team that makes so many plays around a good cocoon, driving either a team fight or isolating a target, as they tried with Tracer multiple times. The big problem is, as you said, if you have so many tools that work against cocoon, Mighty Gust, Tracer alone, the Tassadar, then it's just so difficult to get proper value out of that heroic ability, and Dignitas simply didn't. So FNATIC played a very clean game here. They have the lead. For Dignitas, the series is of course not over yet. But this is already becoming a bit of a problem. Again, this game is, I cannot stress enough how important this match is for Team Dignitas if they want to qualify for the Western Clash. It's really the make or break game.
It's just insane how visual it is, how strong FNATIC is as a team, and how much they get better and better and better. This is a Dignitas that put up even fights against them at midseason brawl. And here in game number 1, granted, it's only one game, it's one sample size, we can't freak out. FNATIC still looked just that much more dominant with the composition we didn't expect them to come out with.
The one thing that we also have to mention, besides the draft that you just pointed out being very different, is there's a huge difference between FNATIC being playing in an offline and an online environment. They were called in previous tournaments the king of online matches, because online they always excelled even more so than they do in a tournament environment. And Dignitas has really not the best track record against FNATIC when it comes to online matches. They were always close, but normally or oftentimes FNATIC takes the victory. Until the mid-season brawl, on the other hand, offline, it was a very different scenario. That's where Dignitas is really the team to make all the plays and win the series. FNATIC finally broke that spell in Sweden at the mid-season brawl, but online in HGC so far, FNATIC has not lost the series to Dignitas.
Is it time for Dignitas to pull out their main weapon, Stitches? Well, we'll find out, but we also get some words from all of our players about Stitches and how strong he is currently in the meta.